All right. I'm going to try not to blow out everybody's ears. Let me know. Can you hear me well? Because I think that we're going to have a lot of fun tonight. I'm going to turn the TV off because we're already done with the broadcast. Are we good? Are we good? Let me know in the chat. Uh, let's see. Okay. All good. Awesome. Awesome. I don't know what's going on, but the the StreamYard's messing up. So yeah, we it's been a wild night. StreamYard's still messing up. Luckily it's not glitching. It's just I can't reach any of y'all that put super chats. So sorry. But welcome on in for the post race. We'll go over the super chats. I just can't put them on screen, unfortunately, tonight. I don't know what the hell's going on with them. Damn crazy things. Oh, that might be it. I need to actually have the results ready to go. But how's it going, everybody? Welcome on in to the post race for the 2025 Weather Guard Truck Race. Nothing like that, nothing, with the like Weather Guard 200 or whatever. The Weather Guard Truck Race, which actually is kind of unique, I have to say. This race was 250 laps, won by just under a second by Chandler Smith. Anyone remember the old meme where his mom's like, Chandler? I remember that one. But yeah, that I gotta say that was a fun race. I had fun with that race. Let me know what you thought out of 10 tonight. I get that the weather might have been an issue. I get that that ending was a little sloppy, but it wasn't stupid sloppy, right? So I'd personally give it an 8. I thought it was actually a pretty solid race, all things considered. You had some shenanigans. You had some people that were, pulling some dumb moves, obviously, but it wasn't terrible in any way with the dumb moves. It wasn't like something that was so mind-numbingly egregious that you question why you're watching, So I'm seeing a lot of 7s, 6s in there. Liked it. Let's see. They're 8 out of 10, 6.5, 6. I don't know why. I just got the hiccups all of a sudden. I liked it, not loved it. 7.5, 7, 6.34. Very unique. 6, 7, 7 maybe. So I'd say a lot of people, for the most part, were pretty happy with it for the most part, which I'd say it was a decent race. I thought it was a decent race tonight. Chandler Smith, obviously, like I said, gets the win over Kyle Larson, who put on a wild charge at the end that comes up just short. Corey Heim finishes 3rd, and then Tyler Ankrum, Ben Rhodes 5th, 6th Lane Riggs, 7th Jake Garcia, 8th is Caden Honeycutt, 9th is Raja Caruth, Gio Ruggiero in 10th, 11th Jack Wood, Enfinger, Hemrick, Kligerman, and Corey Day, the top 15. After that, we have a mad, but never followed up on the story, but mad Matt Crafton, Sutton in 17th, Gray 18th, and Perez, last one on the lead lap, 19th place finish for him tonight. 20th, one lap down, is Mills. Tomasi, I never can say these names right. 21st, Fenhouse in 22nd. And the 22 was 4 down, 7 down for Fenhouse. Bailey Curry, 23rd, DNFs out of this race. Had a great race going. Was running up for the win, actually. A career night for him. He has these abilities like 2 or 3 times a year. You just see him pop up and go for a win. But ultimately, sounds like the transmission broke, and that cost him at the end. So he's out of the race in 23rd. Mosak, 24th, 16 laps down. Tony Breidinger is 23 down, finishing 25th tonight. Carroll, last one on the racetrack, 28 laps down. After that, pretty much every one of these guys was out from there. 27th, Friesen. Bird in 28th, Starpoli in 29th, Boyd 30th, Frankie Muniz 31st, Brandon Jones 32nd, Ty Majeski 33rd, Norm Benning finishes 34th, was not last, and Stephen Malazzi in 35th, last on the racetrack. Let me know if I spelled anybody's names wrong. It'll be going down on the bottom there. We will read those super chats after we talk a bit about the race itself. Kind of do what we've been doing for a while. Let's talk about the ending of this race, because I overall thought the race, it had a bit of a lull for stage 2, but for the most part, I thought this race actually was very fast paced, good action. Yes, everyone's happy for Norm. I love it. Norm didn't finish last. Hang the banner. I love the love for Norm. True racer if there ever was one, even if he got lapped 8 laps into the race. He didn't even, he got 4 miles into this race and he was a lap down. So it's like, but the finish of this race, the final run for the most part, it was Raja Karuth that was leading on a separate strategy. He was probably just waiting and hoping and praying that something would happen. Something did happen and caused a caution, and that was rain. But he was getting run down by Heim and Smith with Curry right there with them, the 44 right there. And Raja Karuth falling back, right at the end of that, but got bailed out. You had Kyle Larson just starting to charge his way up there. He finally got into a rhythm and the caution came out for weather. I get it. They stopped it for a little bit, ran 10 laps around, got back going. The interesting part for me was that there was an immediate yellow on the next restart. Heim was leading over Chandler Smith. Pretty even restart, racing side by side. But it stopped pretty much immediately because the 44 was going slow back through the pack. I think that's why they called it, unless somebody, put down some debris or some fluid or something. I don't really think that was worthy of a caution. Put in the chat, that caution that was on the restart, basically with 14 to go. Y for yes if you thought it was a real good caution, or N for no, it shouldn't have been a caution. Let me know in the chat. I'm going no on this one. I did not think that was worthy of a caution in any way. I think that they jumped the gun. I get they've been trying to be safer and not be just late to the draw like they were earlier this year. That was the big talking point after Daytona and Atlanta was they were throwing cautions too late or too early. I think we're pretty much all in agreement that was not a good caution. But at the same time, if that's the worst thing we're talking about is a caution that ultimately, based on how they were restarting, really, I would say it didn't change the race too awful much. I mean, if we're looking at the totem pole of truck controversies, way up here at the top is Phoenix finale and 23, I believe it was, and then there's maybe some bad super speedway races and things. This one's kind of low. It's like down here at the ticker. It was honestly not the worst controversy I've ever seen. It won't even be remembered by tomorrow, I don't think. But that opened up the restart at the end for the 38 to pull out ahead. Larson tried to run him down, couldn't do it just because that 38 truck was on a rail. Chandler Smith gets the win, puts on a really great race. I believe I have the number of laps. He led 127 of the 250 laps. And that's with the tire strategies flipping and all of that. That's with all of the comers and goers throughout the race and all of that stuff going on. Far and away had the best truck. The best truck won tonight. And it's crazy for me looking at our NWP picks, and none of us picked the 38 truck tonight. I can't say I'm surprised just because I didn't have him on my list, but I'm surprised that he's, kind of been undervalued this far into the year. But he put on a hell of a great interview. That was a great interview. I love when drivers like that, when they are just letting it all hang out and saying what they think, what's on the top of their mind. Who cares if they cuss? Oh, what if the children? Nah, who cares? I like this stuff. I like when we can let the drivers be themselves, because that For those that love him, it's so much better in that moment. And then also for those that don't love him and hate him, it grinds their gears that much more. It brings out the emotion in the drivers, brings out emotion in the fans. It's why we should encourage drivers to just be themselves and let that out there. Yeah. um, let's see what else we got here. And yeah, you could tell it meant a lot for him. I mean, his career a year ago, he didn't know if his career was going to be, you didn't know if his career was going to be actually happening this far into the future. Remember at the end of last year, he's like, I might just go and work for my dad's business. And he was winning Xfinity races. I would not be surprised if next year he's up in Xfinity if they have sponsorship. I wouldn't be surprised too, depending on how it all unfolds, if at some point he's up in the Cup Series. Whether he should or should not, I think he should probably be more an Xfinity guy. But that I could see that happening. I think he's a really talented driver who just kind of didn't have the great, uh, deal his way. And yeah, I wasn't even watching NASCAR at that point. And yeah, I'm still, I'm still like, yeah. Every time I hear a driver say shit, I'm like, all right, yep. Thank you, Justin Timberlake. So I'm gonna believe a poll on here because I want to see what you guys think. And it's just gonna be the top 3 series: Cup, Xfinity, or Trucks. And the poll question is, which series should Chandler Smith be in? Because I'm seeing people put a lot of them in there, and I'm curious to see which way you guys go with it. So, which series do you think he should be in? I think Xfinity. I think he should be in Xfinity. Maybe very low level Cup. He's made a couple starts at this point, but at the very least, I think Xfinity should definitely be where he's at. And yeah, I mean, it's true. He got demoted due to funding. And tonight is a great night because he got to prove a lot of those people wrong. And I don't care what the background is, any of that. I like when drivers can prove narratives wrong because it's very interesting to me. So far, it's looking like 78% going Xfinity, 12 Truck, and 10% Cup. So I can see where the chat's for the most part going. But the thing is, Chandler Smith wasn't the only driver, only thing going on tonight. I mean, looking back at the entirety of the day, this was a challenging day in every way for the truck regulars. Because you got to remember, a lot of these, there's a lot of lifers, obviously, and a lot of older drivers that are in there. But at the same time, so many of these drivers are younger drivers or are drivers just getting their feet wet in the top 3 series of NASCAR. And with everything rained out, no track time leading in, honestly, for what we've seen in the Truck Series in years past, I think it's actually kind of impressive that we saw the race we saw tonight. There was a rash of cautions there in the middle of the race. I just saw that comment. There was a rash of cautions, early on in the race or in the middle or so, but for a truck race at Bristol, no track time, challenging conditions, slow trucks galore out there compared to usual. I mean, the amount of just, moving chicanes on the track tonight was, I think, astounding for truck standards. I'm surprised they were even kind of meeting minimum speed. And it even goes for Norm. Love Norm, but his truck was rough. I saw Norm's truck on the TV every 10 laps when he was out there. But I honestly say pretty good job for those guys being out there, guys and gals being out there. Damn, you guys are just rough on Crafton. And I'll keep a lookout and see if there's any report on if he went and confronted anybody. I saw that Fox foxed it. At one point, I think they had Josh Sims on screen and they said he was Todd Bodine. And I'm like, Todd Bodine looks darker and has a lot more hair than I remember him having, but I guess onions age differently than others. Let's see. I'm not seeing really anything. If there's anything that goes on, let me know for sure in the chat. But no qualifying. Hemrick starting up front. I'd say for the most part, everyone through the field ran a pretty good race. The field in total for a Truck Series standards ran a pretty good race. Kind of going through the race here, Hemrick kind of fired off really fast right away, and it was 3 and 4 wide in the pack. It was actually kind of nuts watching the early part of that race. You knew that you probably weren't going to have too awful long of a run before something happened. Of course, Chandler Smith took the lead early, and you kind of saw it early on just how his truck was handling so much better. And beating Larson, who was on, I think, like 40, 45 lap fresher tires too. I get that they had kind of equalized a bit at that point, but we had seen that as far into the run as he had went towards the end of that race, that the tires just fell off a cliff. He deserved this win. Fully deserved this win. But he took the lead 9 laps in. Connor Mosack would spin, making the first caution. The comp yellow made contact with Gray, which a typical kind of Bristol deal, I would say. Just kind of gets pinched. That's Bristol going for the same real estate. And for the most part, it was a pretty chill stage until lap 53 with the big wreck. Frankie Muniz goes down low. Ty Majeski I think that he was going to go higher, commits, runs right into the back of him, crashes himself, crashes Brandon Jones, Stuart Friesen, 4-truck wreck. There was not a really good replay of the wreck. Fox going to Fox. But from the sounds of the way they talked about it, both in the booth as well as the drivers, it sounded like the 98 just thought that the 33 was going to go higher than he was. At the same time, it is a bad look no matter what when a lapper ends up taking out 3 top 5 caliber trucks, which is what happened. All 3 of those trucks taken out with the 33 were pretty fast, but we didn't really get a good look. I think the best look we saw is a photographer on X got like 4 pictures as it went by. But yes, Malcolm was definitely in the middle of that wreck. Yes, the jokes write themselves in this one. And yes, I agree with this too. Parking Norm Benning is an act of treason against humanity because we love Norm. Of course, they have a late restart. Smith wins the stage over Rhodes, Ankrum, Riggs, and Hemrick, the top 5. Then Larson, Crafton, Day, Garcia, and Raja. I want to give a shout out to Raja. Not just because he's friend of the channel, friend of NWP, all that. But I want to give a shout out to Raja because he has struggled mightily early in this season. And we even saw it. I think at one point during this, right at the start of the second stage, he spun off of the 45. He's had a rough year, and a lot of people were unironically crowning him the next driver of the 48 heading into the year. Listen, I think he has plenty of potential, but he needed a night like tonight. He only finished 9th, which in this equipment, he probably should be getting top 5 finishes, but he needed a just solid night to be able to come back from something bad happening, like being spun, lead a bunch of laps, hold off some pretty damn good trucks on inferior tires compared to them, and then get the fresh tires, restart in the back half of the top 20, navigate his way through the issues, get that top 10 finish. Those are finishes you got to build on, because I can look on my end here, but points-wise coming in here tonight, he was 34 points behind the cut line of Ben Rhodes. And I guarantee he's gained on that cut line, because I get Rhodes finished ahead of him, but others didn't that were up there. But he needed a night like that. And I have to think, if anything, that is a good kind of bolstering of confidence for him. I hope so, because I think that he can get better as the year goes on. Just a slow start this year. But I think at the night's end, he probably could have had a top 5 finish. Maybe definitely top 10 like he did. I think he got the finish he deserved. I think he could have got a top 5 tonight. If things had shuffled out the way that would have been more beneficial for him. But he has not had winning speed yet. That's the next step. Like, once he can start getting a few more of these top 10s, run top 5, I want to see Raja have some winning speed. Because outside that Las Vegas race, can anyone actually name a race that Raja Caruth in trucks had top 2 or 3 winning speed and was leading a ton of laps, not off a strategy? I can't really. Maybe I'm not a historian of trucks even in the last couple of years, but there's not been many, if there have been any. So I want to give him that shout out just because it is a step in the right direction. It's good improvement, and I'm interested in seeing what he can do at the Rock. I'm very excited. I'm excited because I've never got to cover anything from Rockingham before. Not that I'm going there, but just a race that's happening there. Which, by the way, will be live tomorrow and Sunday after the races, and then of course Rockingham's next, which I'm just so excited about that. Going to stage 2, of course, we talked about that first incident. It was Smith leading the show again for the most part. We had Bailey Curry though, who had better tires, and he flew up the pack. And to his credit, after that, until his transmission issues, Bailey Curry ran top 3 or 4 and ran some of the top 5 best speeds out there. Until his truck actually started having problems, he was a top 5, top 3 legitimate contender today. He won stage 2 over Smith, Honeycutt in third, Heim and Gray the top 5, then Ankrum, Crafton, Garcia, Rhodes, and Day the top 10. That's another one. Day, just show me something, man. These first couple races have been rough. I needed to see something. I saw a little bit of something today. Ran back half of the top 10, which is an improvement. I don't think, if I'm not mistaken, he didn't finish there. I think he finished 15th. But Bailey Curry, I think, was the standout guy of the night that everyone was like, whoa, where did he come from? And we've seen it before. There's been a couple races before where I think it was Nashville was one that he had actual winning speed. Homestead was another. Just every now and then, Nice just raises their head up and with him. And if they can give him good enough trucks, he's proven he can drive them up there, which I love it. I love seeing some of these guys that you don't normally see run up front, get their time in the sun. Of course, with this part, 2 big things happen. Raja stays out, and that's when he gets the lead over Bailey Curry, over Chandler Smith, over Corey Heim, over everybody else. Kyle Larson speeds in the pits. Now, Larson, I believe, had been just outside the top 10 roughly. I don't think that this changes if he wins or not. Actually, I think him speeding was a blessing in disguise because they were able to do a separate strategy. They were able to pit because they were in the back half of the lead lap trucks. They were able to pit and get those fresh tires. Had he made up a bunch of spots on the opening restart, the opening couple laps, I don't think he and that team pit from 6th or 5th, but they'll pit from 16th. So I actually think that was a blessing in disguise, if I had to say so myself. But we're not, at least for a lot of people that don't like Larson, at least you don't have to listen to the storyline of him going for 3. Though I did get with him the top pick in NWP points, so that's nice. Yay me. But the first caution in the final stage was from Tony Breidinger. She goes around off of the 52, who was trying to make up just any time and, possible. Very rough night for Friesen. Looked like Friesen just got loose. I know that some people were not. Yeah, I know. See, there's people getting tired of it. I get it, man. Yeah. But yeah, I'd say that. I guess some people say that Friesen did it on purpose. I don't think so. I think it was just a mistake. His truck was ailing badly, and he was just limping it around out there. It was actually the handling, you could tell, was difficult on these trucks tonight, which is not something that you can say of every single race when it comes to Bristol in the lower series. Sometimes those things Goodyear brings, and don't get me wrong, like the tires fell off a cliff off the end of the run, but I do think that they could probably, and I get it's colder too and all that and all the different conditions. But Goodyear did bring rock hard tires, it seemed like, until they completely fell off to the cord and then they were not rock hard anymore. But at the same time, let me look what the weather is right now in Bristol, because I don't think that in general they're at the finish of the race, it was 36 degrees at Bristol. Which I've been at races a little colder than that, and I've been at races around that. And if it's here's the thing: if you go to a NASCAR race, if it's below 65, it feels colder. If it's above 65, it feels warmer. That's like the cutoff, man. Um, I've been to races that are 65 degrees, 66, 67 degrees or nice degrees out. And I'm like, man, it feels like it's in the 70s or 80s right now. This is great. Put some sunscreen on and, have myself a beer. I go to a race, it's like 59 degrees out. And if there's a wind, it feels like it's 40. So if it's 36 out there, and you saw how many people were bundled up out in the stands, power to y'all. If any of you guys watching right now, guys or gals watching, if any of y'all are at the track or leaving the track, much respect to you. I've been at races like that. It's miserable because unlike like football games where, you have people around and you chant and you can cheer and stuff like that, NASCAR races are very different because you really don't cheer until specific moments. And generally a long amount of the race, you're sitting on that cold ass, aluminum seat, and you don't dare move because if you move an inch over, your ass is getting an icicle on you. But yeah, so way off the beaten path on that one there. We get it back going, 83 to go. Raj is still up front. And again, he led for a while over Heim and I believe Bailey Curry, in the 44. And if I'm not mistaken, he pretty much led a majority of the run. And that's when, of course, we get to the point where, Heim gets the lead, Smith follows the second. They're in a really great battle, and then the rain caution comes out. We've kind of already gone through and ran through all that. I wish that could have run to the finish. Like, I didn't care about the Larson storyline, just because it's cool and all, but it's not like, to me, when bushwhacking cup guys go down there to especially trucks, but even Xfinity, it's not even the same as accomplishing it when Kyle Busch did, because when Busch did, there were usually 10 to 12 cup guys in the truck field, and there were like 20 or 30 cup guys in the Busch field, or nationwide back then it was called. So it is kind of a little diminished for me of like, oh, that's great, and it's a high level series. And I think Xfinity will be way tougher for Larson tomorrow, honestly. But I wanted to see that race end with those two battling to the finish. Like, I wanted to see that race, go down to the wire between the 11 and the 38. Cause I feel like even though Heim didn't have a better truck than Chandler Smith, I feel like Heim is a more experienced, I would honestly say better driver than Smith. And so like he can make up for some of the, diminished ends with his truck. But ultimately the rain stopped it. And to be fair, I mean, I was watching the radar all day. I was surprised we even had a race because the rain through the mountains there would just pop up right at the track. I'm glad they got the race in. And the fact that was the only issues we had with weather tonight. And it sounds like, I mean, I'm going to look right now for you guys and see what we're looking at the rest of the weekend. Sounds like that's going to be the worst of the weather we're going to have all weekend. It is a minor miracle in and of itself, especially when I saw like some of the other forecasts, just because sometimes they pop up. So tomorrow's going to be 7% chance. So it should be a pretty good day, partly cloudy. And then mostly sunny and closing in on 70 degrees on Sunday. It's going to be a beautiful day in Bristol. It's going to be awesome. At least based on what the National Weather Service has. So fear not, for the next 2 days, we should be good to go. And even if it drizzles a little bit or like a rain shower comes out, we got the wet weather tires. So 7% a scam. But yeah, so overall, pretty happy with the race. I thought it was a pretty good race, and I'm excited for the rest of the weekend. I think Xfinity can be really fun as long as they don't just all get stuck to the top of the wall. We're gonna end the poll here, by the way, of which series y'all think Chandler Smith should be in. Looking at the results, I'm waiting for it to load. Eventually, there it is. 71% of you think he should be in the Xfinity series. That follows up with 16% saying Cup. I know it says 15%, but it was 16% when I stopped it. 13% of y'all think he's right where he should be. on the truck side. By the way, I saw some asking who led most laps tonight. It was Chandler Smith, 127. After that, Raja Caruth with 85. Corey Heim had 16 led tonight, and 8 led for Daniel Hemrick, 14 for Bailey Curry, and that was it. Those were your leaders tonight. Be sure to subscribe, by the way. We're about to go in the super chats, but be sure to subscribe tonight. Fastest lap. I did not see who got the fastest lap because NASCAR's website does not have any kind of thing to denote that. If anyone else has seen it, let me know. Because that's the thing. When we go live on here, it's just spur of the moment. I am not seeing it. They never said it on the broadcast because, of course, at one point they said, I think at one point they said that Larson had it at the end, so it was probably Larson. Okay, so yeah, they said Larson did with a couple laps to go, so I'm assuming that was it stayed that way. Radio said it. Where are you at? Radio said it. Thank you, Dirty Def. NRN, as it is now, the NASCAR Racing Network. So there. And then where did that one chat go? Yes. Good luck tomorrow for Ellie Productions in the Xfinity Series. Hope he has a good day. Hope that car has a good day too. But let's go into the super chats. Subscribe, by the way. We do this after every race, and I want to see as many of y'all as possible for all of them. Let's look at the super chats here. Sly Supersonic before we had started, had left one for 276. Interesting. Says it's great to see a former KBM driver win again. Yeah, that's right. They mentioned that he had driven for KBM. Andrew Winslow says the lol cow of the race, the 44's transmission. Yeah, that sucked, man. I wanted to see him get the run he deserved. Let's see. G Swizzy 17 for the 2 says my nonchalant king Raja Caruth making a title run. I hope he does. Biased. I'm biased, I'll admit. No one Raja, but hope he does. Raja's a good dude. Really interesting conversation. If any of you ever get the opportunity to just like sit down and talk for like 20-30 minutes with Raja, very interesting guy to listen to. I remember talking to him at Daytona, I think in 2020. And I was so surprised because he sounds so much older when you talk to him than his age. Let's see. Colby Cheese Racing 29 for the 10. Thank you. I appreciate it. It says it's ridiculous and very sad when you get a good battle for the lead and they throw a weather caution when they could have waited for 5 more minutes. # strange animal. Well, I like that. Good reference to the end of my videos, which, by the way, I did put one out today about how, interestingly, the 2012 spring race at Bristol changed the course of how Bristol is forever, which is interesting to think about because no one really remembers that race outside of like the Jeff Gordondale Jr. deal. I get why NASCAR threw it. You don't want to have what happened at Loudon, I think in 2021 it was, where they all barrel into the corner and the leaders wreck, or you have like a Daytona 2022 where the entire pack wrecks. Like, I get it. It sucks. It's just, I do think it's a necessary evil, if I had to say so. And Race Hail Praise Dale for the 5 says, if you owned a cup team or owned a cup charter and needed to hire a driver from either Xfinity or Trucks, who would you choose? Interesting question. That's a very good question. Connor Zilich is obviously somebody you got to look at. I think to me it'd come down between Connor Zilich and Corey Heim. I'd be very interested to see what Heim can do in good equipment and have seat time. I'd probably, just for the raw potential, I would take my chances with Zilich, just because, especially, and this is how I am as a fan too. If you ever listen to how if I've been on different shows and like football talk shows before, like Purple Daily, and talked about how I think the way that like my team, the Vikings should go. And I'm very bullish on taking chances as an owner. I'm very good at spending money that's not my own when it comes to sports. And My thought process is I would rather go for someone like Zilic. We know is pretty good already at the ovals, awesome at the road courses, tons of potential being as young as he is. He has that opportunity to kind of be another Kyle Larson. And everyone's going to be like the next Kyle Larson, the way that they forever said the next Jeff Gordon. And my idea with that is I'm willing to take that chance at having that good of a driver who's going to have sponsorship, who's going to be probably, you know, on the upside, be able to race for my team for 20 years, which is not, I think, out of the question. It's not out of the question for Connor Zilic when he gets to Cup. If he is good and can stick around, it's no way out of the question that he could be around for 20 years. Now he could get up there and be a complete bust. That's just the jump from Xfinity to Cup that would, you know, you always have to wait and see. I'm interested to see what he can do in the 600. I feel like I might answer differently depending on how the 600 goes, though I don't want to have too small a sample size either. I'll go Zilic for now. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and his fans, the Zillbillies. And let's see. All sports all day for the 2 here. I think this is the last one. It says modified tour a few years ago had 18-degree day in New Hampshire. Damn. Ugh. God, I think I played a football game once in like 18 or 20-degree weather. It sucked. But that was the best part, like, because I played defense, and so the entire time I was like, you know, because our offense was like anemic. It was terrible. And so the thing about those really cold games I loved is like our offense would do a 3 and out or something, and I'd run back on the field. And I'm like, thank God I can stay warm, you know, because when I, you know, playing in middle school or high school or whenever the hell it was, you don't like, you know, you don't get giant burly coats like NFL and college guys do. So I'm just like, let me go out there and hit somebody, because it hurts more to get hit when it's cold. But it hurts less to hit someone when it's cold. So like it's totally a defensive player's dream. And when you get to just knock somebody's lights out, when it's like you see because you can see the breath come out of them when you hit them in the right spot too. Like those are the moments on defense you live for. But I could not imagine sitting in the stands with it being that cold watching a game. I am fine being outside when it's below 20 degrees or even below 10 degrees when I'm moving. Like I remember when I ran cross country and track that I'd practice when it was like 9 degrees out, and I could run 3 miles, you know, in under 30 minutes at the time. And I'd love it because I just keep moving. I put on a bunch of layers and I'm fine. But sitting out there and not being able to move, screw that. Screw that. All right, y'all. I think that's going to cover it. I appreciate you guys coming out and giving me some of your Friday night. Go enjoy what's left of it. I see it's 9:30 Central, so it's 10:30 on the East Coast, 8:30 I think in Mountain Time, and then 7:30 out for you guys on Pacific Time. So go enjoy the rest of your Friday night. I'll see you tomorrow after the Xfinity race. Subscribe if you're new. We're going to have a lot of fun, and see you tomorrow. Later, y'all.